Carson Wentz as a quarterback talent, you could argue is second only to Patrick Mahomes, but he ain't the second best quarterback in the league. And I would argue he's not one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league. So the fact that he's now getting fat off the NFC East, where except for one defensive touchdown, it's one-score games wherever you look. By the way, he's playing for a Super Bowl winning head coach who won the Super Bowl, made the playoff run without him at quarterback in a division where he's getting all these wins that Orlovsky wants to give him credit for, in a division where every other coach literally is being fired as we speak. Like, we're waiting for breaking news. All the other coaches, head coaches, are getting fired, and he's playing against them in tight games. So is it nice? Is he ticking in the right direction? I'm not at all saying he's not a good player. Carson Wentz not a bad quarterback. I'm saying his level of play is not commensurate with his pay or his talent right now.
Well, I got it, Dan, because I'll give you the last voice on this before you and Max get into it. Just let me say a couple of things. Number one, Max Kellerman, you need to pipe down on the emotion, because that's the similar kind of emotion you had when you were raving about how great Baker Mayfield was going to be this upcoming season. The emotions parallel with one another. Just be careful about that. That's number one. Number two, there's an inordinate amount of drops that Carson Wentz was suffering from, at least costing the Philadelphia Eagles 3 games, which Dan Orlovsky accurately pointed out weeks ago. Even though the Dallas Cowboys had their drops too, as you pointed out in Philadelphia, the reality is Carson Wentz had to deal with that. That's point number two. Point number three, when we look at Carson Wentz, durability was a question mark. Got hurt 2 years ago en route to an MVP. Ultimately, he would have captured the MVP award, but he got injured late in the season when Nick Foles ultimately took over and guided them to a Super Bowl. Last year, he got hurt again. Nick Foles comes in, gets them to the playoffs, plus a victory over Chicago. We get all of that. But this season, you have Deshaun Jackson. He's gone. Alshon Jeffrey. He's gone. Nelson Aguilar. He's gone. Ultimately against Dallas, Zach Ertz went down. So you're talking about a Carson Wentz that went in yesterday's game down 4 receivers. Okay, we don't even get started with their running game. We just found out about Miles Sanders because we didn't know too much about him prior to this season because he wasn't supposed to be their guy. Jordan Howard out of Chicago was supposed to be their guy. That didn't end up being the case. And so when you look at the bevy of weapons, when you talk about Donovan McNabb, I hear you on that because that's a point that Donovan McNabb has made in the past, publicly and privately, that the bar was moved. He was held to a more stringent critique per se. But the bottom line is those weapons, although somewhat mediocre in a lot of people's eyes, that Donovan McNabb had available to him. Let's keep in mind, he had them from start to finish. He didn't start with them and then they got injured and disappeared, and you had to fit in guys from the practice squad, for crying out loud, like a Ward or a Boston Scott or people like that. So these are all the things that Carson Wentz did, and in light of that reality, along with being 5-7, along with the eye of the storm coming in his direction, and them still closing out the season with 4 straight wins, finishing strong in the month of December, I would say he deserves far more respect than you are giving him. Go ahead, Dan.
Well said, Stephen A. All right, Max, this is my favorite thing to do week by week is coming to here and talk to you about Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz's 2019, in totality, is the second most impressive quarterback performance in the whole NFL. Outside of Lamar Jackson, it's the second most impressive one. Not a single skill player, tight end, wide receiver, running back that started yesterday was in the NFL week 1. Not on the Eagles, was in the NFL. The Eagles, to go on this run, needed Carson Wentz to play perfect football. Not good football, not really good football, perfect football. In their wins, he's got 16 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Max, you continue to bring up the point of all these excellent pieces around him. Who?
Competent.
No.
Competent pieces.
You said excellent.
Oh, well, is Ertz excellent? Yes or no?
Ertz didn't play yesterday, Max.
But is he excellent?
Didn't play yesterday.
Is Goddard excellent?
No.
He's not excellent.
Excellent,
yes,
Max?
He's excellent.
You can't even name these.
Is Miles Sanders excellent?
Good.
Okay.
Did he play yesterday,
Max? How was Scott yesterday? He did play. How was Scott yesterday?
Excellent?
Was he excellent yesterday?
You never even heard of these guys, Max.
Whether or not I've heard of them doesn't speak to whether they're good or not.
They weren't in the NFL.
You just said
5 months ago,
Dan,
Max.
you just said You keep
They
moving it.
weren't in
Are
the
they excellent?
NFL.
And then you want to focus on yesterday. Let's focus on yesterday. How did Boston Scott play yesterday?
Good.
Did Carson Wentz rush for 3 touchdowns and get the defensive turnover?
Did he get the ball
game?
down to the 1 yard line to afford those 3 touchdowns? That's such a silly comment.
He had a couple of elite throws that only he or Mahomes could make, followed up by bad throws.
Max,
Like what he was saying is perfect. It's not true.
The guy needed to be perfect for them to go on this run.
Obviously not.
He was perfect. Your commitment to not giving him credit is just as impressive, but also mind-numbing as Jerry Jones' commitment to Jason Garrett over 10 years.
I do give him credit.
No
Wait a minute.
sense.
I don't give him credit out of proportion to the accomplishments.
Max,
every single coach in the division is fired. Do you think that's because their teams are good?
No, they lost to the Eagles. That's why.
Oh, that's why they're getting fired? Because they all
Sure.
lost to the Eagles?
Yeah.
And most of the other teams they played.
Max,
this is the worst division maybe in the history of football.
Max, he had 23
They were
completions.
one-score games for the most part.
23 completions yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Over half were guys that were never drafted into the NFL. He has done something with nothing. It's been the second most impressive quarterback performance.
McNabb, when he went, let's talk about Donovan McNabb. When he went 11-5, he would have killed for Ertz or Goddard.
Defense all the time, Max.
Or Miles Sanders, or yesterday Boston Scott.
He had a top 5 defense, top 6 defense.
Ward has been competent.
You want to talk about the competition? You know what I found?
The point.
You know what I find is silly is that you've tried to minimize what he's accomplished over the last 6 weeks because you say it's against nobody. Top 10 defenses when Carson Wentz has played them this year. He's 3rd in QBR behind Patrick Mahomes and Drew Brees.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.